Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's budget session begins with the address of President Draupadi Murmu. Finance Minister will present the interim budget for the fiscal year 24-25 on Thursday. Three-phase Gaza ceasefire proposal released. Israeli PM Netanyahu asserts won't end this war short of achieving all objectives.
We will not end this war short of achieving all of its objectives.
Joe Biden says he has decided U.S. response to Jordan attack. Pentagon says 4 attacks against U.S. forces in the region since January 28th drone attack. In Under-19 Cricket World Cup, India decimate New Zealand by 214 runs in the first Super 6 game at Fontaine. And on to details now. India's budget session begins on Wednesday with the address of President Draupadi Murmu. The all-party meeting was held at the Parliament Library building, where the leaders highlighted the issues they would want to raise during the session. The ruling government also shared its plan and offered a glimpse of its agenda. Meanwhile, suspension of opposition MPs from Parliament will be revoked once the budget session opens. 146 MPs were suspended during the winter session of Parliament for disrupting House proceedings. And India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present the interim budget for the fiscal year 2024-25 on Thursday. India has been on a 7+% growth path for the last 3 years, and the Finance Minister can be expected to keep the momentum going despite not being able to present a full budget ahead of the parliamentary elections. In fact, a Finance Ministry report has said India can aspire to become a $7 trillion economy by 2030 by sticking to the path it has followed so far.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is set to present an interim budget for the nation on Thursday, a few months ahead of the general elections. It may not be a full-fledged budget launching a flurry of schemes, but expectations are high that the Finance Minister will maintain a policy trajectory which will keep the Indian economy on its over 7% growth path.
इस बजट में फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन एक इम्पॉर्टेंट टॉपिक निकल के आएगा, जिसकी वजह से एमएसएमई सेक्टर को काफ़ी बढ़ावा मिलेगा और इस चीज़ के लिए फिनटेक और बैंक की और मजबूत पार्टनरशिप की ज़रूरत है, जिसकी वजह से बैंक एक न्यू एज टेक्नोलॉजी इंप्लीमेंट कर पाए.
The annual budget is normally preceded by the economic survey, but ahead of the interim budget, the Finance Ministry has brought out a report titled Key Highlights of the Indian Economy, a review, where it says Financial year 24 marks third straight year of 7+% growth of the Indian economy. This strong growth has been recorded despite the global economy struggling to grow at 3+%. India can aspire to become a $7 trillion economy by 2030. Public sector capital investment has surged in the last 10 years. GST has incentivized production on a larger scale. MSMEs are becoming increasingly vibrant and dynamic. Investment incentives and initiatives to ease business compliances have strengthened the ecosystem for startups. Agriculture sector has demonstrated tenacity and resilience. Measures have emboldened banks to resume lending to all sectors. There's greater inclusive development, much lower unemployment rate, moderate inflation. Digital public infrastructure has transformed the authentication ecosystem. The cost of conducting eKYC has been brought down from ₹1,000 to ₹5. India has become the third largest fintech economy in the world. India became the world's fourth largest stock market by market capitalization. Employment situation in India has experienced a positive transformation. 53% women used their own bank accounts in 2015-16. 78.6% women used their own bank accounts in 2019-21. Female labour force participation rate was 23.3% in 2017-18. The ratio went up to 37% in 2022-23. India has undergone a journey from fragility to stability and strength during the last 10 years.
We know that the last 2 years have been characterized by a number of shocks, risks and great uncertainty. Quickly, if we go back, it's really, I had projected, others had projected a growth rate of 7% plus minus over these 2 years. But then the Ukraine war happened. And then many people, including myself, reduced the forecast by 0.5. But we have been surprised, right? So my range was 6 to 7%, and as you pointed out, we've had 7.2%. So that's an interesting aspect, and I'll mention only one thing. One of the most important drivers of that was the change in the budget to increase the capital expenditures. That's been a huge driver of growth, and economic analysis has shown that's because the expenditure multiplier of the Indian government on capital expenditures is very high. It's about 2.5%.
It's not just the government which is lauding the transformation. It has come in for praise by the topmost international institutions and figures. Earlier this month, World Economic Forum President Borge Brende said that India is a $10 trillion economy in the making in the coming 2 decades. In December last year, S&P Global in a report said India will become the world's 3rd largest economy by 2030. A month earlier, Fitch Rating praised India's medium-term growth estimates while reducing China's. October 2023 saw the IMF forecasting positively about India's contribution to global economic growth. It said India's contribution to economic growth is expected to rise by 2% to 18% over the next 5 years. The finance minister is expected to keep India's growth momentum going with her interim budget, keeping equity and sustainability at the forefront.
And elaborating on the Indian government's vision behind Atmanirbhar Bharat, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said that the nation is moving forward at the right pace, which it won't stumble in the times to come. Addressing the special session of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce in New Delhi, he said business and commerce is correlated to the security and defence of the country, terming the connection as deep. Rajnath Singh described India and the US as natural partners who must move forward together in both business and strategic sectors amidst the current global geopolitical scenario.
बिजनेस और सिक्योरिटी एक दूसरे से पूरी तरह से कोरिलेटेड हैं, एक दूसरे से पूरी तरह से जुड़ी हुई हैं। यदि किसी देश में बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट मजबूत होगा, यदि किसी भी देश में बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट मजबूत होगा, तो उस देश की सिक्योरिटी भी मजबूत होगी, और यदि किसी देश की सिक्योरिटी मजबूत हो रही है, तो वह उस देश के बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट को भी मजबूत करने में सहायक सिद्ध होगा ही होगा, ऐसा मेरा पक्का विश्वास है।
India and the US are working together in different fields, including defence, technology and space. Raksha Mantri said that the nation is moving forward at the right pace with which it won't stumble in the times to come. He enumerated the decisions taken by the Ministry of Defence to promote self-reliance has helped the country find a place among the top 25 countries which export defence equipment. Rajnath Singh further enumerated that the Russia-Ukraine and Israel-Hamas conflicts have not much impacted the defence sector. And also, India has become a strong country which is capable of securing national interest and giving a befitting reply to anyone who casts an evil eye. And the National Payments Corporation of India is launching UPI Tap and Pay across digital payment providers today. This feature is already live on the BHAIM app and Paytm for limited users. NFC-enabled devices can make payments by tapping the device on UPI Smart Tag or Smart QR on the screen. Transactions under 500 rupees can be processed through UPI Lite, while those over 500 rupees will require a UPI PIN. And India's digital payment infrastructures impacting everyone, and other countries are interested in knowing about it.
You know, I spoke to you about digital public infrastructure. Today, the maximum number of questions I get when I go out in the world especially when I go to Africa and Asia and Latin America. People want to know, how does that system work? That how do you use Aadhaar? You know, how does your Aadhaar, your telephone, your PAN card, your bank account, how do they get connected? You know, what is this form of governance which you have created?
While keeping with the well-established tradition of regular exchanges between Bhutan and India to further strengthen the existing close ties of friendship and cooperation between the two countries, India's Foreign Secretary Vinay Mohan Kwatra called on the Prime Minister of Bhutan, H.E. Shering Tobgay, during his visit to Bhutan. The visit provided an opportunity for wide-ranging discussions on all aspects of the bilateral relationship, including development partnership, 13th Five-Year Plan, cooperation in energy, trade, technology, connectivity, infrastructure, economic ties, and people-to-people connections between the two countries. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Senior cadet captain Ulfat Khan from Uri district has become the first ever girl cadet to command the Prime Minister's rally at the Republic Day Camp 2024 in New Delhi. Her determination and resilience earned her the title of Best Commander and the DG Commendation Medal certificate. Pahalgam hosted the Natural Ice Climbing Wall competition. The event aimed to promote adventure sports, showcasing the region's winter activity potential. 22 participants from diverse backgrounds showcased their skills and determination in conquering Pahalgam's challenging ice walls. Following a fresh snowfall, visitors flocked to the Atal Tunnel area beyond Manali in Kullu, Himachal Pradesh. The police successfully rescued 300 stranded tourists near the south portal of the Atal Tunnel in Rohtang who got stuck while travelling. A thick layer of fog engulfs parts of national capital this morning, reducing visibility on the roads. Flights and train operation affected. The Indian Meteorological Department said that Delhi will likely receive light rain on the 31st January and the 1st of February. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Russian drones hit civilian targets in Ukraine's Kharkiv. We'll show you a remarkable collection of over 600 Bajrega parrots. And Paris Metro will use AI app to navigate visitors through the capital's network during this year's Olympics.
That never stops, where information shapes our reality. One app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Vipakshi Kuran. And moving on, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu repeated his vow not to pull troops out of Gaza until total victory. Netanyahu, in a speech, made it clear that Israel will not withdraw from the Gaza Strip or release Palestinian prisoners held in Israel.
I hear saying about all kinds of hostages deals, so I want to clarify. We will not end this war short of achieving all of its objective. That means eliminating Hamas, returning all of our hostages and ensuring that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel. We will not withdraw the idea from the Gaza Strip and we will not release thousands of terrorists. None of this will happen. What is going to happen? An absolute victory.
Earlier, Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has threatened to dismantle the coalition government if a reckless deal was reached with Hamas. Reckless deal is equal to dismantling of the government. Itamar Ben-Gvir of the Jewish Power Party posted on X amid media reports that Israel was considering a long-term pause brokered by Qatar and Egypt to its offensive against Hamas in Gaza. Meanwhile, Hamas said on Tuesday it is starting a new proposal for a ceasefire and release of hostages in Gaza. The ceasefire proposal followed talks in Paris involving intelligence chiefs from Israel, the United States and Egypt with the Prime Minister of Qatar. The proposal involved a three-stage truce during which the group would first release remaining civilians among hostages it captured on October 7th, then soldiers, and finally the bodies of hostages that were killed. During a week-long ceasefire in late November, 105 Israeli and foreign hostages were freed in exchange for 240 Palestinians held in Israeli jails. Israel says over 130 hostages are still being held, although about 24 of those are presumed to be dead. And UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres convened a meeting with 35 member states in the European Union on Tuesday amid fears of funding shortages. This comes after Israel accused 12 UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA's Gaza employees, of involvement in the October 7 attacks, causing several countries to suspend their funding for the agency. And UNRWA spokesperson warned that the agency would be unable to sustain operations beyond February without resuming funding. More than 10 countries, including major donor, the United States, have suspended their contributions. An Israeli government spokesperson, Eylon Levy, told a press briefing on Tuesday that at least 13 UNRWA employees were actively involved in the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. Levy revealed some parts of an Israeli intelligence dossier that prompted a cascade of countries to halt funds for the UN Palestinian Aid Agency.
In light of the abundant evidence of UNRWA's complicity with Hamas and its failures to distribute aid to civilians who need it, Israel calls for the following. 1. The defunding of UNRWA. Foreign Minister Israel Katz has called for UNRWA to be replaced with agencies dedicated to genuine peace and development. 2. The resignation or dismissal of UNRWA's leadership and a thorough investigation of what they knew about its ties with Hamas. There must be accountability for this cover-up, and UNRWA's leadership must be held accountable. And 3, consistent with his 3D vision for peace, requiring the destruction of Hamas and demilitarization of Gaza, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has spoken forcefully of the need for de-radicalization in Gaza. UNRWA is part of the problem, not part of the solution. It is a Hamas front, and it's time to put it behind.
And the United States said on Tuesday that the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, needs to make fundamental changes before Washington will resume funding. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, welcomed a UN inquiry into the accusations against staff at the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East and a planned agency review.
I know that we need to see fundamental changes before we can resume providing funding directly to UNRWA. And as you know, we shouldn't let that cloud the great work that UNRWA does. UNRWA has provided essential humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people, and UNRWA is the only organization on the ground that has the capacity to continue to provide that assistance.
Well, the U.S. on Tuesday shot down one anti-ship cruise missile fired by Iranian-backed Houthi terrorists from Yemen towards the Red Sea on Tuesday. There have been 4 attacks against U.S. forces in the region since the January 28th drone attack on a base in Jordan that killed 3 soldiers and wounded over 40 troops. Meanwhile, a statement was issued by Iran-aligned Kataib Hezbollah announcing the suspension of all its military operations against U.S. troops in the region, reacting on which the U.S. said actions speak louder than words. And US President Joe Biden has said he has decided how to respond to a drone attack that killed US service members in Jordan, but did not elaborate. Speaking to media persons, Biden, however, asserted that the United States does not need a wider war in the West Asia. Biden has been weighing his options, and the expectation has been that there will be retaliatory strikes, but the timing of the response has been unclear. Reporter asked him if he holds Iran responsible for the deaths of the servicemen, on which Biden responded with affirmation.
I do hold them responsible in the sense that they're supplying the weapons to the people who did it. We'll have that discussion. I don't think we need a wider war in the Middle East. That's not what I'm looking for.
Well, India's foreign minister emphasized the importance of playing an important role in the safety and security of the region around Yemen, stressing the need for independent, non-kinetic contribution. India's greater capabilities warrant helping out in difficult situations.
The Indian Navy has deployed 10 ships today in that region, because we got a double problem. We got a piracy problem, and we've got a missile drone problem. If you look, even in the last few days, we actually, one of our ships, I think INS Vishakhapatnam, went in and extinguished a fire and rescued the crew of a tanker which had taken a drone hit. The Navy had rescued, it's interesting, we rescued Pakistani and Iranian fishermen from pirates. We will not be considered a responsible country if bad things are happening around our neighborhood and we say, I got nothing to do with this. So we have actually in the last 10 years developed a very, I would say, powerful narrative. It could be what is happening today through naval deployments in the Red Sea. Some of you will remember last year there was an earthquake in Turkey. We were among our disaster response force went in very early. And during COVID, it wasn't just the vaccines we gave. We actually sent out doctors, including military doctors, to many countries in the Indian Ocean. At the moment, our choice today is by contributing to the safety and security. We are doing a lot of non-kinetic contributions out there, but independent, because at the end of the day, we are an independent country.
An Indian foreign minister also emphasized the need to establish a logistics corridor that will connect India, the Middle East and Europe through the Arabian Peninsula. This corridor aims to bolster India's connectivity with these regions and enhance trade and economic cooperation.
In the case of IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, you actually have India at one end, Europe at the other end. Two very important centers of both production and consumption. And the idea is to create a kind of I would say a logistics corridor through the Arabian Peninsula. And the reason why this idea got traction was, for thousands of years, this was the corridor. So, in a way, today we are resurrecting history and trying to, through the skill of technology and modern engineering, I would say, try to create a much easier passage.
And updates now, Russia-Ukraine war. Russian attack drones hit civilian targets in Ukraine's Kharkiv on Tuesday. The official said attacks slightly injured 3 people, triggering a fire and causing damage to apartment blocks and infrastructure. Kharkiv mayor said windows had been blown out of 2 high-rise apartment blocks and several cars were destroyed. Kharkiv region governor said at least 6 drones had been deployed in the region. And Germany and Poland stressed their intention to cooperate for the support of Ukraine. Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski said Poland will continue to be a hub for the reconstruction of Ukraine.
We hope that in February it will be possible to decide on a €5 billion package for Ukraine this year. We will also talk about the reconstruction of Ukraine. Poland will also take part in the conference that will take place in Berlin. Poland will continue to be a transport hub, a hub for military aid, and will also be a hub for the reconstruction of Ukraine. But first, the war has to end.
Well, also, Russia and Ukraine are scheduled to face off at the International Court of Justice in a case in which Ukraine accused Russia of violating an anti-terrorism treaty by funding pro-Russian forces on Wednesday. Kyiv accused Russia of funding pro-Russian forces in eastern Ukraine, including militias involved in shooting down Malaysian Airlines flight MH17, killing all 298 passengers and crew in the case, which was launched in 2017. Ukraine also said Russia breached the UN anti-discrimination treaty by trying to erase the culture of ethnic Tatars and Ukrainians in Crimea. Meanwhile, Russia denies systematic human rights abuses in Ukrainian territory that it occupies. Judgments of the World Court are final and without appeal, but the court has no way to enforce its rulings. And now from news around the world, a truck accident in southern Brazil has caused white foam to flow in a river, with military police reporting that acid from the crash spilled into the water. The incident has triggered a local state of emergency as the substance can be harmful to humans. Rio's carnival season features dogs dressed in various costumes, attracting Brazilians and tourists from around the world for 5 days of celebration and elaborate parades. The Canine Carnival, which runs alongside other major festivities, is expected to generate around $971.55 million for the Rio Tourism Company. A 67-year-old man from Strumica, North Macedonia, has a remarkable collection of over 600 budgerigar parrots. He claims to know each bird he has born in his 100-meter square. The birds were initially owned by Georgieve's nephews, but after moving out, Georgieve took them under his wing. He spends 2 hours every day feeding and cleaning the parrots, including budgerigar and cockatiel species. And on to sports now. India defeated New Zealand in Under-19 Men's Cricket World Cup Super 6 game by 214 runs on Tuesday. Mushir Khan's second 100 of the tournament guided India to big win. Asked to bat first, India lost an early wicket, but Mushir and Adarsh Singh stitched a good partnership. Mushir scored 131, while Adarsh scored 52 to help India post 295 for 8 in 50 overs. For New Zealand, Mason Clark resisted a 4-wicket haul. In reply, India bowled out New Zealand at a paltry 81 runs. And Paris' public transport system will provide 2,000 agents with artificial intelligence-supported translation devices to help thousands of tourists navigate through the capital's network during this year's Olympics. The Tadivia device can translate from and to 16 different languages, notably Mandarin, Arabic and Korean, and Paris is about to welcome fans from all over the world during the July 26th to August 11th Summer Games. The service will remain after the Olympics in Paris, the world's leading destination for international visitors. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi praised a Republic Day joint India-Oman musical performance performed at the embassy reception at Indian Embassy in Oman. Watch a unique jugalbandi as noted dancer Aishwarya performs Odissi dance to the tunes of Vande Mataram, played by Omani band Scales Ensemble. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.
In a world that never stops,